one.
Agenda item later in the agenda. So, my name is Mike Mendonça. I'm not actually the chair. I'm just in this seat until we elect the chair. Item 3 of the agenda. So, and a couple of other bits and pieces that I have to manage before I do that. So, my first order of business is to invite the members of the community board one by one to come up and sit next to me to read their oath and to sign it. And the first one we have is Tonchi Begovic, please. It's not an oath, sorry, it's a declaration.
Not Michelle Lewis.
Not Michelle Lewis, that's somebody else.
I, Tonchi Begovic, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikanae community the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikanae Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
Thanks, Tonchi. Michelle?
I, Michelle Lewis, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikanae community the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikanae Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
Richard.
I, Richard Paul Mansell, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikanae community the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikanae Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
I, Michael Peter Moore, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikanae community the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikanae Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 and any other act.
I, Nigel Leonard Wilson, declare that when I am acting as a community board member, I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Waikanae community the powers, authorities and duties vested in, this is a hell of a sentence, isn't it, or imposed upon me as a member of the Waikanae Community Board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information Act and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you and congratulations, Community Board members. We now move on to item 2 of the agenda, which is explanation of the legislation for new elected members for this triennium. Now, I'm going to take this report as read. I just would like to draw your attention to one piece of legislation in particular, which is the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015. You have some responsibilities under that Act. I do as well. We all do, actually. So I just wanted to point out that my obligations extend to the staff and officers from other organisations who engage with the board, and part of my duties is to make sure that people are safe in this environment, and subsequently, because the thing that's changing at the moment is the use of social media and what happens in social media afterwards, that is in the workplace as well, from a health and safety and employment perspective. So we have the recommendation that the board members of the 22-25 triennium note the general explanation of legislation provided by the Chief Executive's representative pursuant to Section 1 of the Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act 2002. Can I have a move that in a second, please? Councillor Wilson and Richard, thank you. Oh, we have to vote. All those in favour? Yeah. Carry, thank you. So we now move on to item 3. Which is the election of the chair and deputy chair. So I'll sit in the seat for the election of the chair, and then I'll vacate the seat, and the chair will run the remainder of this section. Again, I'll take this report as read. You have 3 recommendations in front of you. The first one is whether or not you select option A or option D, which effectively is STV or first past the post. Can I have a mover for either of those, please?
I'll move D.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
All those in favour? Thank you. So the board has selected B. I now call for nominations for the position of Chair of the Waikanae Community Board.
I'd like to nominate Richard Mansell.
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
Abstain.
Abstain.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carry. Congratulations, Richard. The chair is yours. Can I suggest that we maybe have a 5-minute recess so we can gather our thoughts and talk about the agenda, Mr. Chair?
Right, certainly. Yes.
Well, yep. You're the chair, so.
Well, I will take a short 5-minute break while I learn what I'm meant to be doing. Our Deputy Mayor to come and sit at the table. Given his official status, he should be up here and taking the flak like the rest of us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
The next thing on the agenda is the election of a deputy chair of the Waikanae Community Board. So recommendation C. So I would like to nominate Mike Moore for that position.
Yeah, second.
Abstain.
Abstain.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Right. Congratulations. Right, next thing on our agenda is apologies. The Mayor was here, but has had to leave. Anybody else? Any other apologies? Martin Halliday
Yeah, no problem.
wanted to be here because it comes to everything.
I've got an apology. I don't think Gracie's here from Te Hora Beach. No, so Gracie Christian here.
Okay.
She's on behalf of the community garden.
Okay, and declarations of interest for items relating to the agenda. Has anybody got any of those?
Under applications for funding, through you, Mr. Chair, I've got a conflict of interest for Ferndale Residents Association.
Noted. Nothing else? Okay, we'll move on. We now have public speaking time, and we've got quite a few people who have indicated that they wish to speak publicly, and we have a 3-minute limit that I'm going to have to enforce rigorously because I don't want to be here until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, as I have been in the past. So first up we have Julie Palmer from Waikanae Residents Association. Is she here?
Hello, Council. My name is Julia Palmer. I am the President of the Waikanae Residents Association. And really the only reason I wanted to speak tonight is first of all to congratulate you all on your appointments. It's fantastic to have this lovely team here. We have the funding application in, so that was what I was wanting to speak to. I don't know if you've read it, but if anybody's got any questions, I'll make it very short and sweet. So has anybody got any questions about that? Jolly good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next application is, public speaker is Paul Livingston, Ferndale Residents Association. Paul here? No? Thanks, Sam. The next we have is Rangi Halbert, a grant application as well. Welcome, Rangi.
Tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa. Ko Rangi Halbert taku ingoa, that's my name. I have a degree in Māori law and philosophy. I went off that track and started teaching Māori, Te Ao Māori, or Māori worldview to schools. So I have been doing that for the last 13 years. So I had a call out from one of the parents that one of the children that I teach from one of the schools to teach whānau. So I've got I put up a program where whānau can be invited with their tamariki, grandparents, sisters, whatever, to come to my class, which is over in Reikorangi Pā, number 20, Reikorangi Road, to come and learn Te Ao Māori with their children. So I started that up December last year, and I'm going through this year, and hopefully the years to come. We don't have any resources. We're just using what our parents can offer. It's on koha base, so whatever you have, whether it's what could be groceries or something like that, that could be a contribution to my time of an hour and a half that I spend at this class. I have 3 whānaus and probably about 12 children at the moment that come every Tuesday. So it's only an hour and a half, and we go through Te Ao Māori values and with the parents learning with the tamariki. So that is the aim, is to go as long as we can, but with a bit of funding, which will be used on books. What do you call it? Resources for books and pens and things like that, which is what we need, and staplers and things. Resources, school resources. So thank you very much for your time.
Just hang on, Rangi. Has anybody got any questions? No? 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 Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Rebecca Bond, Kapiti Art Studio.
I'm wishing to apply for $500 towards the publication of a book that we've written in our Kapiti Art Studio. So we work with people from Parapara Umu up to Otaki, and there's 30 plus artists there, and over a third of them are Waikanae residents and long-time members, like 15 years long members. In this book, I hope it will aim to educate people around differences and also normalise differences and celebrate our differences. I printed out the cover here, so just so you've got an idea, it's based around some canaries that one of our artists has, and she also draws. So I photoshopped her pictures together, and I also bought another book that we've published of someone else's poetry, just to show that we can publish. Yeah.
That's great. Has anybody got any questions? Michelle?
I just asked, have you made any application to the Parapara Umu Community Board?
Yes, but they're not meeting till February next year, and we're hoping to get that done pretty soon. Yeah. There's other funding that I'll keep applying to, because we need, for 100 books it's like 1,500, so we've got a little bit of money from the Arts Trail, but we'll keep going with the fundraising, and we'll, hope to get there before we get to the Parapara Umu.
So what impact will this have on our Waikanae community? Is that what the board's interested in supporting our local residents?
Well, the money sales from the book will continue to come back into the art studio, so we can continue to support those artists. Also, we hope to take it into schools and read it and educate people that way. I just think it's a nice, gentle, fun way to educate people, especially the children. And there's talk about taking it into retirement villages as well. It's for us, it's about bridging that gap between the community and us, and just normalising and making those connections.
Thanks, Rebecca. Where is the art studio domicile? Is it Waikanae or?
Where do we run our studio
Yes.
from? So Paraparaumu and
Right.
Otaki.
Okay,
So, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, all good.
Thank you very much. Now, hopefully Maria McKee. Maria, are you here this time?
I am here. I think there's been a miscommunication. I applied to speak, but she never actually got back to me to say that I could speak. Because I was just after a update on the main road.
Right.
And obviously there will be an update on the main road. So for those that I actually put a submission in or spoke at the last meeting and about the roadworks and about the time frame, and Michelle came and saw us, and Jacob led from Waikanae, he spoke to me and my husband. We own the Waikanae butchery, so it's been happening since February, and so we're just really wanting it to be finished. And I saw the latest update from Higgins and Waikanae online, and it appears to be getting there, but the bit out front of the shop is just fucking wasteland at the moment now, as best as I can describe. So that's what I was wanting to speak to, but I know there will be an update, so I'm not sure if that's...
Thank you. When you spoke to us last time, there was concerns about the fence, and I noticed that has got smaller. Has that helped?
It did. I think the outlook looks a bit better, but still people are just... It's just not a good look, really.
No.
Yeah.
So you did achieve something by coming.
We did, yes, and we are happy about that, and the bollards are up, but the rest of it just, it's been a long time,
Great.
isn't it?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Next, we've got Lynn Sleeth, Capity Cycling Accident.
Thank you. I've got a handout here for you. Look, we're just going around with committee boards at the start of trying to introduce ourselves, tell you about what we do. So we've been to Paragram, Romati, we're going to Bangkok and Otaki, and the council meeting on Thursday. Just to introduce ourselves, we work with the council, with the council's advisory groups, and the council staff. So this is not a confrontational situation. Not looking for money. Paragram board. When I went to Paragram, I said, "Can we give you money? Give you money." So not after money, but just after cooperation. Paragraph at the top of my handout here does make criticism of the previous board. Our group, over the years, we've been wallboard before. We have found resistance from members of this board. No Shilling staff has had the same problem. You won't find any cycle lanes marked in Waikanae, except the ones that Waikanae has done. And that's very sad. We've had difficulty getting simple things like cycle lanes and cycle markings approved here, despite the fact it's a national standard. And we understand how the council has difficulty with it. So we hope the new board will have, and I've spoken to Michelle about this, the new board will have a slightly more enlightened attitude. Just a few other highlights. I'll just run through these very quickly. Please see what else I was hitting. Completion of town centre road improvements. Definitely agree that it's taken too long. Begins to take a long time. Welcoming the safe alternative path which would link the river with the town centre, Mahara Place, Farm and Metnick car park. I spoke to the community board earlier this year. They were very supportive of that. I think Metnick is GW's now saying there was a route from there which they had to mandate. So that's good. Very nice people don't want to cycle. Park Avenue, I'll leave the question with you. It's the unfinished part of the link from the town centre to the beach for cyclists to find Timon Road challenging. Park Avenue is the designated route. The council was unable to secure anything that the residents were happy with, and so it's left. We could go out there and do some green paint tomorrow on green improvements. But I think we need to think about whether that's a finished business or whether it's incomplete. It certainly is a gap in that. Pekapeka Road, I mentioned this before to council and to this board. Pekapeka Road, about 5 years ago, was this board's highest concern about roads in the Waikanae district. There's a concern. We have a section in the centre which has an 80 km speed limit. Either side of that you've got 60 and 50. We think the whole road should have the same speed limit. I think the new speed limit rule from Waikanae would probably mandate that. Council's saying something will be promised in the long-term plan. I think it's about 5 years away. We're saying in our submission to council something urgent needs to happen to make them safer. And Waikanae, we'd like to see reverse the speed limits on the remote section of the highway. We have put a submission in. We'd like a low speed zone in the centre of Waikanae to help people cross the road outside the butchers. And we'd like 80k on the section up to Pacific. And we have put that submission in. It seems to be taking a long time to make that decision. I've been dealing with Steve Jones for about the last 3 years on that. I know it's open to it. Thank you for your time. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions?
Right here, Mr. Chair. I'm a bit confused as to what the primary message is, but is it lack of cycleways in the district, Waikanae, and connecting to the other townships?
Our national organisation wants to have more people cycling.
Okay. So just to retort to your comment about the previous board, my understanding is, and I've been part of that previous board, is that we've embraced the notion of cycleways, north-south connectivity, in conjunction with the revocation works, as well as seaward, east-west. So I think that's a bit of an unfair comment. You'll appreciate that pedestrians on two wheels and vehicles is a tricky business, and I know that council is doing good work with that. We've had quite a few reports in our last triennium, so
good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I'm aware that we're a new council, or there is a new council, and Lawrence is the person to badger about it, but there's a new cycleway, walkway, bridleway group reformed under
CWV.
Yeah, CWV.
Yes.
So hopefully you can get to them.
Yes. And I hope you'll also find a member to join the Road Safety Advisory Group, and Sean gets that right. Waikanae hardly ever sent anyone to the Road Safety Advisory Group. Hardly ever. I think the only person was the lady who left during last term. We had great everybody getting everybody from this board to road safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I've got Peter Gibson.
Congratulations on your appointments and elections. What I like to talk about, I've got to make sure that you're very much aware that I'm independent. I have worked for contractors. I've worked for Waikanae or in the days of NZTA. When the expressway was about to be built, I was told that KCDC were wanting to put a sewer line from Waikanae to Kaparan pumping station, treatment plant. In doing that, they weren't able to fund it at that time, and it would mean that the new road was going to get dug up after it was completed. So I jumped in amongst that, and I talked to the CEO of NZTA, and he said NZTA could not fund local authority infrastructure. However, he pushed it through and got a loan and lent the money to KCDC to enable that sewer to be put in. Okay, so the sewer was essentially, I've got half an hour, but I won't. I've got timelines of every little issue on the way through. And I looked up the KCDC GIS map, which is available to everybody, and I see that the sewer was never completed. There's a section here which it stops just short of the what I call Patricia Grace Wall. Okay, so there's also a section across Te Moana Road parallel to Te Moana Road that was put in but can't be used. So right at the end here, because I'm trying to cut my time down, these are words that I got from somebody who was involved some time ago. The main reason that the pumping main has not been completed is that the KCDC have not got iwi agreement to pump wastewater through the rising main past the Wahoo Tapu and the Tiara Tapu areas. The discussions halted for some reason, and the last this was somebody else, heard was that KCDC may have to abandon the pipeline and find another route. What I'd like to, I'm bringing this to the attention so that I'd like to see KCDC get into negotiation with various iwi and get that job finished. They spent about $3.5 million, $3.2 million I think on it. The alternative routes that they've now proposed are expensive, anything up to $5 million. Any questions?
What are the implications for Waikanae for not having that section joined into our current network?
Ultimately, it will stop new development in Waikanae because we've got to get rid of our sewage. And so it'll catch us up in the end. So it has to be built one day. And I think it's important that it's actually, negotiations are started and get on with it.
So we've invested in something infrastructurally, but we can't use it.
Yeah.
Do we need to use it now?
No, it's not finished.
Maybe
Sean,
we can invite Sean through you, Mr. Chair, to...
Yeah, I was going to get him at the end of like for Nigel's.
I'm happy to hear what Sean says.
sorry to dump you on it, Sean.
Yeah, no,
that's all right. It has to be brought up.
Well, Sean, if you can enlighten us, that would be useful.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm Sean Mallon, I'm the Group Manager of Infrastructure Services at Kapiti Coast District Council. I'm here to, to answer questions associated with the presentation from Waikanae on the update to the revocation work, but I'm happy to provide some response to Peter's comments there. In terms of time frames, there's a lot of history behind that particular project.
Yeah, sure.
There is a project in this year's annual plan, which is actually to connect up that pipeline. We have been engaging with iwi, so it has been on hold, and there have been some issues from a cultural perspective in terms of creating that connection, but we're working through that process at the moment. So at the moment, there's certainly no intention of abandoning that pipeline. The Rapraha Road, there's a pump station, wastewater pump station there. That's the terminal pump station for Waikanae, pumps everything to Paraparumu. We have a rising matter, a pipeline that runs to Paraparumu at the moment. This work is duplicating that pipeline for future growth into the next 20, 30 years. So at the moment, we're able to manage that in terms of the capacity issues, but ultimately we do need to provide that connection. So there's probably about 80% of it in terms of the drawings there. The majority of it is completed from south, from the just south of the Tumaina interchange, and it's really the connecting point of Rapraha through to that interchange, and then the connecting section at the wastewater treatment plant. So there will be a briefing to the councillors on that. It's part of this year's program of works, and I'm more than happy someone to come back, brief the board if needed, or at some point in the future once that's been discussed at council.
That's great. So just there's the black line there. There's what has been constructed, and there's a little gap. It's only that long, which is only about 300 or 400 metres long, if it can go on that alignment. But one way or another, it's got to be done.
So Sean, how can you commit to funds and a project when the route is not fluid?
Certainly the route, again, without spending the whole evening talking about that process, again, I'm happy to come back and brief the board with a paper that actually provides the background to the project. The original alignment was along a shared path. Again, there's a lot of history there. The original alignment was, as was stated, was to run along the shared path through to Paraparumu. There were some issues in terms of the cultural sensitivity of that pipeline running through that area that was mentioned in terms of the Waitapu and the Patricia Grace's land. So again, it is not a straightforward issue. There are lots of issues going on at the time, and again, trying to explain that to this forum without having a lot more supporting information in terms of some of the technical stuff. Certainly, I can talk to the funding as well. But again, it is a good half an hour's conversation, I expect.
Well, just the Reader's Digest version then. So there's 3.2 million's been spent. How much has been budgeted? Oh, hasn't?
No, so the actual, it was about 2.4, 2.6. From memory, again, I'm just recalling that. I mean, you're better off to have the actual factual information presented in the report.
I think we're getting far too detailed.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could just put it on your work schedule to do some sort of briefing back.
Sure.
Sweet.
Hey, thanks, Sean. I appreciate your comments too, because they are running exactly in line with what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Doug White.
Well, I'm Doug White. I'm representing Jenny Asquith and the group called Finish Our Road. And she's asked me to read her report to you. She and her husband both have COVID at the moment, so couldn't attend the meeting. I'm a member, this is Jenny speaking, I'm a member of the Finish Our Road group, which was established after NZTA announced on the 31st of January 2019 that they'd no longer proceed with the construction of a full interchange at Peka because it didn't align well with the priorities set out in the government policy statement on land transport. In May 2022, the Council unanimously supported our notice of motion seeking to, and I quote, support in principle investment by Waka Kotahi to provide south-facing connectivity at Peka to make best use of the expressway investment, improve safety and avoid the cost to the community of local roads. End quote. With the 2019 TA decision to no longer proceed, the wider impact of lack of access to the interchange needs to be reconsidered, particularly the impact on the residents of Waikanae, with significantly more traffic running through the streets. A dated estimate is perhaps 2,300 extra vehicles per day, and growing, with North Waikanae and Tohora being one of the fastest growing areas on the Kapiti Coast. And so, the issue now is as much for Waikanae residents as those in Tohora and Peka. This will become so much more obvious when the PPTO expressway opens. Tohora Peka residents will now have a choice, either driving an extra 20 kilometres a round trip to access the expressway at Otaki, which is what Waka Kotahi are expecting them to do as the road signs are already up, or wind their way down through the Old State Highway 1 lane wide, 80 kilometres per hour maximum roads, 3 sets of traffic lights in Waikanae, and 3 sets of traffic lights and a speed bump in Waiparamu and a roundabout in Raumati, or work their way down through the local roads of Waikanae town to access the expressway at Waikanae, or drive down the Peka Road to Waikanae Beach to access the expressway at Waikanae. Our community has been the most affected area of Kapiti during the expressway construction over the last 6 years, and it will be the only area, the Kapiti Coast, which doesn't have direct southbound access to the expressway, and yet it runs past us. At its simplest, you have a purpose-built expressway connecting Peka and Waikanae, and the issue is, I have 30 seconds, and the issue is, why force the through traffic into the local roads with all the adverse consequences, while the expressway is underutilised for the foreseeable future? So, I'm asking the Waikanae Community Board 2 things. What plans are in place to keep this issue active, including liaising with full council to have meaningful discussions with Waka Kotahi, and once the expressway opens, what plans are in place to alleviate the extra traffic and associated issues that will occur in and around the local streets of the Waikanae community?
Any questions?
Probably a question over back to the council. Are you aware of the traffic models and whether the traffic models are being used to test whether what was planned or predicted when before the expressway opened has actually materialised?
No, I'm not. I'm here as a friend of Jenny to read this report.
Okay. We've got Waikanae here, and they were going to be speaking to us later, and Sean's here as well, so perhaps we could briefly cover that when they're speaking.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to do that. I mean, I can give you a very quick response to the question. There's a question there about what are the board doing to support this issue, I guess, in terms of the ongoing discussion around that interchange, and certainly the resolution, the notice of motion that was mentioned. There was a resolution that went with that was endorsed by the council, that we would support the working group that has actually done some previous work in terms of reviewing the business case for that proposal, with any further information that we have within the council. So that relates to traffic modelling information, traffic count data that we have. So there were a number of resolutions that I can't recall all of them, but there was certainly one in there that committed to within the existing resources to provide support to the group, basically, who were lobbying for that interchange. So that's where that sits from a council perspective. I've certainly worked with I think Simon Arnold and a couple of other people in terms of that group, providing with information, and certainly if they approach us and ask for assistance in that space, then council has resolved that we would provide that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, just one quick question. So south, when talking about south-facing connectivity of Pika, is that a euphemism for an interchange?
Yes, it is. Yes.
No? Okay. We've got the commitment from Sean that people from your group can contact him and progress this sort of thing. So
Appreciate it.
And we'll keep a running tab on it.
So have we got a copy of your...
I can provide you...
Can we get a copy of that?
No, you may have this one.
How about you just get her to email it to us?
You can do that as well.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next we have Louise Hinton.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
So I'm just going to introduce myself. Sorry, can I get you to stand in and so shut down? I'll try and do it. Thank you. Okay, so my name is Louise. I have been a resident of Te Horo Beach for 15 years now. I have also been a ratepayer for 12 of those years. Sorry, I have a point. This is a very serious issue. This is life-threatening. I have raised 3 children in Te Horo Beach, and they've all gone to Te Horo school. There is a bus that comes down in morning and afternoon that picks the children up and drops them. So those of you, I'm not sure if you've been to Te Horo Beach and seen the park, there is no parking. It's all with no footpaths where we are. And so cars are therefore parking on the grass. So just a little bit more about myself. I've worked in a lot of community involvement in Te Horo, and I have, watched the growth and the increase of people moving into the area, more families, more children coming in. So basically what I'm proposing is, and I know it's not necessarily the favourite thing because it's not mine, I certainly don't like them myself because I have a lowered car, speed bump. Okay, so the reason why I'm proposing a speed bump is because there is no parking, and there are buses coming in the morning and the afternoon. Children are walking around behind cars. There's no visibility for if a child was to walk out suddenly, which about 3 weeks ago my 12-year-old son almost got hit by a car going past at 50 kilometres an hour. He would have been dead instantly. At that point I went, I need to make the change here. I need to be able to say, this has got to stop now. Okay, we cannot slow those cars down without a speed bump. After living there for 15 years, they use it like a racetrack. They think it's a really cool corner. We have a CCTV in 2 places. At that point, we have footage of cars. Boy races, and not just boy races. I had the bus company make a formal complaint about a man probably in his late 40s
who doesn't give a rat's about going fast. It's his beach, he doesn't care, he does what he wants. So what I want to do is I want to prevent deaths, clearly. We're not going to wait until someone's hurt, injured, or paralysed, or whatever it takes for something to happen. Okay, so slowing down the speed obviously with a speed bump is the most obvious choice. So basically, obviously, if a child's hit at 50, you know they're dead. Okay, instant, basically killed. So at say 10 kilometres an hour that takes for a person to go over a speed bump, obviously that's going to be a much lesser chance that the child will probably see their car coming before it's too late. So this is well overdue. Okay, this is well overdue. Okay, I have sat there so many times picking my children up from the bus and watching near misses, and the seriousness of the situation is just, it needs to be taken well serious now. And I'm sorry, but putting the speed down, making little gardens, putting little berms, these are not going to work. It has to be a speed bump. I do have someone that is submitting separately from me in a different capacity, but they would be probably better fit to go after me. And just one more thing, my daughter wants to say something, and I would like to address one person with a question. So.
I represent all the children in Tahoe Beach. We want to feel safe. We don't want to die. Cars go too fast past the park.
Thank you. And I just have one question that I'd like to direct to Michael Moore. Okay, how do you plan on ensuring all people of Te Horo Beach are fully informed on issues that affect them? Please can you confirm that you will act on behalf of Te Horo Beach without alienation and segregation based on your own opinions? Can you please confirm this? Under the oath that you've just taken.
Yeah, he's made that oath. I don't think he needs to reaffirm it.
Can't confirm that he's going to include everyone?
Well, he already has.
Yeah.
And it's possibly not an appropriate thing to be asking someone.
Well, it's just a question that I think would be nice to have an answer to.
Well, it's an implication that he isn't and doesn't. So
well,
I think I'm going to
rule. It's actually the truth. So it would be nice if he would actually stop alienating people because he doesn't agree with them. So thank you. Lottie and Nat, do you want to go next because you've got the proposal? Sorry,
the chair's organised. There's a list here.
Yeah. It just makes sense to bring it all together.
Yeah, but there's a chair and there's a list. We'll run with that.
Okay, well, that was just my suggestion.
Next,
yeah, thanks.
I've got Mike McDonald.
Yeah, bring Mike.
Who's talking on the same thing?
Yeah,
Good evening. Yeah, pretty much exactly what she was talking about is the things that most of the community and Te Oro have concerns about is the speed bumps that we need to place in key positions around Te Oro. There's about 4 of them at the beach. We have a lot more traffic going through and a lot more isolated, so we seem to have people that are not within the long arm of the law, and you seem to think that because they're isolated away that they can speed a little bit more faster and get to their position because of our isolation. And so I've noticed in other areas like Waikanae, the beaches out along to Levin, and most of the beach communities have speed bumps in there. So this is all the way from Boxon all the way. And so what it is basically to put a certain amount of these speed bumps so that we can reduce the traffic and slow them down for everything from pedestrians to wildlife to the horses, animals that we have around the community. As she explained to us before about we haven't got curbs that we can just go off and walk, and when the actual road doesn't allow us to stand off the road, we have to actually use the road as our main way to move around the community. There is no other way. There's no curbs, there are big ditches, there's mud, there's everything that if you try to push your pram, you'll get stuck in them. So we have to kind of use the road as our main ways to move around Te Oro, and that's just basically what it is. So any questions?
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Thank you. Understand the issue, and it's relevant rather. So a speed bump will take care of the road, and yes, Te Oro has berms, deep berms. How's that going to be dealt with?
What's that?
how's that going to be dealt with?
The deep burns.
Yes.
Well, we still have to use the road. It's just that this gives us an option of not having higher speeds because people have to slow down for certain key positions.
Okay, sorry. I mean, are you proposing speed bumps and then bollards to extend to the boundary of the residential lots to preclude cars going through, or? So what I'm trying to explain to you is a speed bump will deal with the pavement, the road pavement, but there's wide berms, and I wouldn't like to see cars deviate.
If you were trying to do it at speed, you'll probably crash. That's just plain and simple.
You can't deviate because
you
there's
can't
cars
deviate
there.
from the
There's cars there.
Yeah.
Parks on the
we
berms.
have cars and we sweep the
Right,
area.
okay.
As I say, if you come at
Yeah.
3 o'clock, you'll see there is nowhere you can go.
Okay.
Plus, if we had motorbikes going through there too, there'd be no way they'd be able to go through around those.
If you try to-
Because we have swampy areas there, and they'll be like...
I just want to make a note, these ones
No,
are directly across
please.
the road.
Sorry, I have a question. Yes. Thanks, Mike. You're talking about 4 speed bumps.
Yes.
Have we had a paper or anything from you guys about where you are proposing those to go?
Yeah, we sent it to Mike Moore.
Yeah,
We
it's
have?
second.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So you can actually have a look at your CV.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks.
I just want to note also that Steve James was my neighbour, gives us fallback too, and he's a safety.
And we actually live directly across from the park where the buses are, and we can actually see the speed that goes through there, and then the direction, because our main street is actually where people speed.
Is that a dead end, that one, or not? A dead end? Are you in a cul-de-sac there, or was that
No,
the other side?
we're right in the middle of
Right.
the street.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, no, at the start of the street there.
Yep.
One of the things that also in regards to the speed bumps, it will help reduce drag races, what they call it, drag races, where at about 2 and 3 to 4 o'clock, they do rounds where they go around certain communities where they can access and then they can speed and do dual speed.
Yeah.
So it will actually slow them down because of the lowness of their vehicles, the drag, yeah.
Thanks, Mike. And, I'm a resident of Dixie Street, so I've seen this kind of increase as the population's grown in the last 5 years or so. And the speed's extraordinary at times. And you've got some CCTV from your property, so I suspect you've got even some more information that you could give to this and some analysis that council can indicate and look at this in more detail of where these things would go, because there are some different types of road coming and speed humps and the plastic ones that go down, or whatever they're called, sorry. Sean will probably...
We're looking at the forward extended ones, and it's these are in the report there.
All right, so thank you. Cool.
Can we talk to you about that? Thanks, Mike. That was great. Drew McKenzie.
I've just really come to introduce ourselves to the board and to the community. My husband Ant and I own the old Mary Crest site in Te Horo, and which we now call Makahuri, which was the original iwi name. So when we bought it, we engaged with iwi at that time and reclaimed that name. So we're in the process of co-housing, and which is similar to Papakāinga. So it's something that started in Denmark a long time ago, and a lot of people in Denmark live like this, and it runs under a body corp legislation where you divide up units and you have a share of the land, but with an overarching kaupapa, and so we have a sort of vision statement about how we want to live, and part of what we are doing is regenerating the forest, which we have about 6 acres of virgin native forest, which is listed in the district plan as forest of significance, and so we have a strong commitment to managing that. At some point in the future, we may approach you. We would like to be able to open it up to the wider community to walk through, and one of the issues around that is it's a swamp forest. The ground is very undulated, and there's lots of seedlings growing which we're trying to protect. So we've done a huge rat and mice eradication program in there, and we now have forest full seedlings coming back. So we'd like to put a boardwalk through it, because then we could run tours and allow people to come through and see what forest used to be like, and it's a very accessible place. You don't have to hike into the hills to go and see it. It's right on our doorstep. So one of the things we'd like to do is to offer an invitation for the board and for the wider councillors to come and actually see Makahuri. We'd like to extend an invitation to invite you for an afternoon tea. We can show you around and just so you can have a sense of what we're doing at Makahuri and see what our vision is and where we're heading with it.
Thank you. That sounds fantastic. I'm a long-term resident of Waikanae. I've driven past Mary Crest for many, many years and just been devastated with the decay that it's had fallen into. It's great to see someone's back there. I'm pretty sure Lawrence will be interested in coming up and having a look at your housing ideas, and I'd be pretty interested to come and look at your swamp. So we'll try and arrange a time to come up there. It's possibly going to be after Christmas, but
So it would have to be for us. We're pretty busy people.
so if you can just keep in contact and maybe suggest some times in February, perhaps. That'd be great.
That's true. And thanks on behalf of the community for opening the open day. I know it was a garage sale as well, but the open day netted a number of people. Tan from Parapumu and Carl came along from Parapumu and Ramati's board. Martin Halliday was along, and we had a few others there. So that was really beneficial and to see what you're doing. And you really want to integrate and work with the community. So it's, it's so much so that council's going to take that and use that lovely name of Makahuri for one of the lanes under the new overpass directly across. I think that's on the proposal. Anyway, we can look at that, but I know it has been mentioned. Sean will be able to say that.
Roll his eyes. Spotlight rolling with him.
Sure, touch it.
No.
No, thank you.
Great.
Sorry.
Oh, that's a fine.
There's always one in the room.
We've got Wayne Stevens who wants to talk about the interchange at Peka Peka. But we've sort of done that, unless you've got something.
Just add a wee bit to it that's already been pretty well spoken about.
Okay.
Yep. Not even that. Now, I'm here tonight on behalf of Marilyn Stevens, which probably people know, but she's committed to other projects tonight. So, if you want, approximately 9 years in Te Hora, Peka Peka and Waikanae residents have been lobbying for better access at Peka Peka. It makes sense that have on-off slip roads or an interchange to alleviate traffic in urban roads in Waikanae. Better access on and off expressway for those who live in the affected areas and easy access for affected business owners. With the growing population and migration of people up to Te Hora and Otaki from Wellington, it seems to be a no-brainer that our roads will need to accommodate this growth. And at least at recent election campaigns, every single mayoral candidate was asked what their stance would be on regarding this interchange, and without exception, they all said they support it. What is the community board going to do to move it along? It now needs someone to take the lead and get it sorted. Any questions?
The idea. What size parcel landholding do you have in Peka Peka, Te Hora? What size block do you live on?
Me? Over 100 acres.
Right. Okay.
So we'll be using that road all the time down through Te Hora to get on to the expressway. So they talk about the full interchange. It's never ever going to. It's just a big word that they use to stop the damn thing. All it is a slip road on, a slip road off. It's real simple. There's room there. Last we heard was the council was negotiating with NZTA or whatever it was to purchase a little bit of land south where the bridge goes over, Peka Peka. And
you're familiar with the concept of...
Sean probably knows how much further he could have got with those discussions. I'm not that involved. Mr. Marilyn can't get here tonight, otherwise she'd better know more about it. But I think there's enough people here from Peka Peka and Te Hora who know what's been going on for years. Yeah.
You're familiar with that concept, be careful what you wish for, right? So you bring an interchange to where you're mooting, that'll bring urban development, probably quite intensive. Does that interest you?
Well, it's going to happen anyway. Come on, let's face it, within the next 20 or 30 years, another 30,000 odd people coming up this way.
Of course it will, yes. And development will ultimately trigger the need for an interchange. But, you get 5 people in a room lobbying for something, there possibly could be 15 in the background who want to protect their 5 or 100 acre block. But KCDC don't have the money for an interchange. That's a central government.
That's right, it's got to come from
Yeah.
central government. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if there wasn't a change of government, when it was national government, I'm not a politician, but in previous days, Nathan Guy and the other ones wanted it to go ahead. It's just a change of government.
I'm sure he did.
So if there's a change of government, we'll probably get in there.
Thank you.
Gordon Schrock.
Mr. Chairman, I'm wearing sort of 2 hats, and I'm going to try and keep my comment under both hats less than 3 minutes, so that's hopefully chewing. I don't want to add to your burdens tonight. Speaking first, if I may, as Secretary of the Waikanae Beach Residents Society, Gerald Rice, our chair, was supposed to be coming but hasn't been able to do so. So on his behalf, can I extend our congratulations to the successful members of the last elections. As you know, we held a pre-election forum, and I think most of you were attended, and obviously it produced the right results because you're here, so that's one thing. Our membership continues to grow. We're representing about 180, 200 people now, and we'll be keeping in touch with you from time to time about our concerns like the new community hall or replacement community hall, and perhaps evacuation arrangements for emergencies for North Beach. We have negotiated with Remo and others, and the golf course, some access across the golf course land where we might need to signpost that. So we'll be in touch with you, but tonight I don't wish to add to your long list of items to address. Also, as Secretary, can I just tell you that some of your members won't know, but at the last year, the year before, you allocated some funding to us to erect a couple of history boards around the area to share with visitors and locals the rather rich cultural history we've got. We've been working away, but we've been inhibited by the COVID problem of both on research and consultation with iwi. But we now have a design for a history board on the Treaty of Waitangi signings, which would go down by the river. We've got approval from the whanau of one of the portraits that we plan to use on this board, and I've just sought permission from the National Library for the other images we have to use, the image of Henry Williams and Te Rauparaha and a couple of others. And unfortunately, as you've just seen, their online research capabilities have had to be closed down because of privacy problems, so it may be a little while before we have the permission to reproduce those images and move to production, but that will happen, I hope. Secondly, if I can speak as chairman of the Mahara Gallery Trust Board, simply to say that all of you have seen that the construction is proceeding very well. One of the few contracts in the country which is proceeding pretty well on time and on budget. There's been a slight delay as a result of weather and supply constraints, but we're hoping to have practical completion in late February, early March, and we're looking towards, we'll then have to bed the new systems in and start moving stuff into the gallery, but we're hoping that we can have a public opening in June or July, so we will be in a position, hopefully by mid-year, to service the wider Kapiti district with a proper functioning district gallery. So we thank you for your support on that.
Any questions?
Questions, but don't expect any.
No. Thank you, Gordon. Now we've got Sue Chetwin.
I'm just going to patch her in.
Oh.
No. We're going to have to do this with Chetwin.
Hello.
Right, that might do it. Right. So, Sue, you've got the floor to speak about your proposal. You ready? You can go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, you can hear us now. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Look, tēnā koutou, everyone. I'm Sue Chetwin, and I own a property in Rodney Ave. I think you would have all seen the submission that Michael has presented you with this evening. So I just thought I'd make some points about that. So currently the area which you've seen on the material that Michael has given you is a car park, but it was actually described to me in a letter by the council once as a special ecological zone. But as you can see, it is a car park, and what it does, it provides access to vehicles to basically illegally get onto the beach. And while residents have complained about that, there's very little that's ever done about it, and we've been asked to take photographs and supply them to the police, but that in itself can be a dangerous activity because people don't like having photographs of their vehicles taken. And I completely understand that the police are so stretched that that's not a priority for them. So what happens is that cars continue to access the beach there and drive up and down it, when really that area, including the car park, should be there for the enjoyment of picnickers, kids, families, kayakers, and other sort of water-based activities. And the irony of it is because it is accessed by vehicles, every time there is a storm, the council comes down and clears it so that vehicles can continue to access it, which is really expensive and unnecessary. And it probably also goes against the council's plan to look at climate change and consider inundation, because if there was limited access and if the road wasn't continually cleared for access to vehicles, then it would naturally build up. I mean, it is an accreting area, but it would continue to build up that driftwood and would possibly provide some protection for the houses against inundation and flooding. So, then the council could actually consider some of the things that it should be giving priority to, which is probably pollution in that stream. But also, if access was restricted, there are some rare dotterels that have come back there in the last couple of years that would allow, some wildlife, plants, and all of those to regenerate. And from the whitebaiters' perspective, we're whitebaiters ourselves. We know now that whitebaiting season is restricted because of the reduced number of whitebait, and having vehicles, four-wheel drive vehicles going across that river mouth there doesn't help the whitebait, I'm sure. But the whitebaiters themselves can still park very close by and walk to the river mouth. They don't need to park their vehicles on the beach. So the proposal to have the managed access barrier, I think would be a really good outcome. It would still allow people to access the stream, would still allow them to enjoy all the beach activities that they really enjoy, and it would allow that area to be the ecological and ecologically protected zone that it should be.
Okay, thank you, Sue. We're going to stop you there. We've got the paper. You've given a good account of what you think. Has anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I have, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure why there needs to be an auto or a manual arm. If I looked at Waimanu Lagoon adjacent to the Waikanae estuary, I think the council have got some bollards in there on chains, which is easily manageable and low cost. I think the notion of keeping cars out is bang on, but to get it over the line quickly, maybe that's an opportunity to look at something maybe which is not sufficiently challenging.
Anybody got any other questions?
I was just thinking, because the river is constantly moving, if you put anything down there, it's going to get washed out. Generally,
well, not at Rodney. I find it hard to believe at Rodney, but I don't know. I mean, Michael, you live there, but also I'd like to keep the theme of whatever's there, semi-rural and seaside neighbourhood too. A barrier can look quite, excuse the language, militant. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. So this is one thing that actually comes under my era rather than his era. If I could just add a couple of things. we did review the bylaw for beach access last year. You might recall. The beach access is one of the hottest subjects in the Kapiti Coast District Council. So we are looking at this across the district. Most of you know Andy, I think, who's been on site with you guys, and Andy Mackay, one of my staff, who's deeply involved with community groups on this kind of stuff. Really good judgment. So Andy has this. It's in our office, and we'll have a look at it in the context of the bylaw review and in the context of the other challenges that we have that the speakers just spoken about with respect to climate change and vehicle access to the beach.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much, Sue.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope you make the right decision.
Thank you. We always do.
And lastly, we have Joanna Paul.
Hi, I'm a resident of Waikanae Beach, and I'm representing myself as an independent, although I am a member of the Waikanae Beach Residents Association as well. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you all, and really looking forward to working with you, as I imagine most of the community. The representation review indicated, of course, certain things about the community board, that they are well needed and wanted, and we do want to, we want to keep the communication lines open, and I'm just not quite sure how broadly, there's two things I want to raise, is just the communication, if we can expand it better with the community, would be really good. I'm not quite sure how. I myself, I don't do social media, and perhaps, most people do, and I don't know whether the board communicates via social media, but, it's something. But there is a need, and it's demonstrated through the representation review, that community boards are well needed and wanted. What I would like to do is get some momentum behind this Waikanae Futures document, which, is everybody familiar with this? So this is something I worked on along with a big group of people in 2015, and this was published in 2017, and it sets out a vision for Waikanae Beach community, and that was anticipating the impacts of the opening of the expressway, the Kapiti Expressway, and ultimately Transmission Gully, but that was much further out then. And it was pretty broad brush, but it sort of laid out some certain foundations of things, and one of the big things was development, and there was subsequently a plan change for the Waikanae Beach to, which was a residence, I think it's zone residence, and now it's beach residence, and along with that, that has certain rules. It's interesting when you look around at the development. I'm not quite sure what the import of those for, how they're monitored, managed, the rules, as opposed to what we're seeing happening there. We have got a community, there's a lot of talk, of course, about the climate change and but more the impacts of the coast. But what we're seeing more and more with these heavy rain events and the high water tables is flooding, really localised. Before we came, we had sort of about 10 minutes of rain before I came down here, and all the gutters are flooding and onto properties on the other side of Chiteri Street where I live. So a lot of the new development has hard-based, it's got cement, there's a swimming pool going in, and I know one of our members of who developed this is really stressed at the moment because of a pump going non-stop, trying to pump out water so they can put the swimming pool in. So what I'd like to do is get some momentum. This was a document where the community was to work with the community board, and we are seeing the impacts, and we have seen the impacts of the expressway, the bogans, the lawlessness, talk about Tempora Beach, we also get it in Chiteri Street, and then just the general development. Obviously there's the government latest about the building, the intensification, working across this. But there's something that came up, I was pointed out the other day, and I've got a picture of, and I don't know how much you're familiar with it, or whether you're even aware of it. There's a proposal by Kainga Ora to build the height levels up to 18 metres in the Waikanae beach area. And I've never heard of this, and I just sort of wonder, what's going on,
I
you
think
know.
that was part of a submission they've made to the council, isn't it?
Yeah. Plan change 2. Can we stop you there?
Yes.
I'd be quite happy to meet with probably you and the Waikanae beach residents and just have a look at that and go through it, and then maybe see what we can start to do. So it's probably easier to just take this all offline, unless anybody's got any questions.
No, but I'd just like to reiterate that Plan Change 2 is something that most of us committed to, working with particularly the beach community to preserve that distinctive character. It will change, but you know, we just want to ride shotgun with the change and make sure that it's a reasonable outcome. So I back Richard's...
Plan Change 2 is changing the entire district. I'm associated with Coastlands. Kaingaora are not happy with the 12 stories at Coastlands and want to go to 15. So I think they've just put in
a blanket.
Yeah, just gone, oh, we'll have another 4 stories just for the hell of it. Just because we've got so much money and we don't have to account for spending it. But no, thank you. So if we could...
It's quite disturbing without knowing the background of some of this, you know, just what's going on, and if we can ameliorate things.
So my email address is on council website, so if you give me an email, I'll make a commitment to come and meet with you and probably several others, and bring whoever else is interested.
I think the Residents Association would probably be
Yeah. Who's gone? So, thank you. Right, I think that's the public speaking. So now we have members' business. We might just jump that and go to our good friends at Waka Kotahi, who are going to give us all sorts of really good news.
Sorry, just a suggestion, because this might take a wee while. We've only got a small number of funding applications, and those people might just want to go after that.
Yep. Well, they might want to go now, because hanging around doesn't help.
Do you want to go through those quickly, or it's up to you? Just a suggestion, because people...
Yep. Is that right? Go through the funding? We're about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Take it through. 3 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
So have you got a page number?
Page 49, I think. Yep. Thank you, Richard.
So we've got applications for funding, and we've heard from most of the people here. We've read all their requests. The dollar figures are conveniently not in there, but Rickaringi residents, I'm just going to go through them one at a time, and we'll try and do them quickly. Rickaringi Residents Association, $2,499 to assist with the cost of purchasing a heavy-duty pop-up gazebo. We are suggesting that is in the Waikanae Promotion Fund, because it meets the criteria of contributing to make Waikanae a good place to live. So have I got a mover for that?
I'll move that.
Second, Nigel. Any discussion?
No.
Right. All those in favour?
Aye. Yep.
Against? Carried. Okay. The second one is the Ferndale one, and we note Tonchi's conflict of interest. Sorry. Ferndale are seeking for $450 to trap more pests.
Yep, happy to move that.
Move that. Any discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Ebony Mason to attend the National Under-16 Touch Tournament. She's looking for $750, but the maximum we can grant is $200 under the criteria. So I suggest that we grant her $200 to assist.
Yep.
Everybody second that?
Yeah, second.
Michelle, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Rangi Halbert, $500 to assist with his Te Ao Māori classes. There doesn't seem to be any restriction on the amount we're going to give him, so I suggest $500.
Move that.
And second, Michelle. Yep. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Cavity Art Studio. Now this is a contentious one, and we've had some correspondence from Michelle about it. The basis is that the grant is not for a recipient who lives in Waikanae. We've been told by the person applying that a third of the members of the Cavity Art Studio are Waikanae residents. So is anyone prepared to move that, just so we can have the discussion?
Yep, I'll move it.
And a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
Just by way of discussion, I would note that I do note that it isn't a matter of setting precedent about people who aren't specifically based in Waikanae, but this group does cover across Waikanae, and also some people may have noted that really beautiful ramp next to the Mahara Gallery was actually done by the Kapiti Art Studio. So they're certainly involved in our community.
Okay. I'd be more comfortable, Mr. Chair, if the applicant approached the Paraparumu Community Board and brought it back to us in February or whenever the meetings cross over. I mean, fundamentally, I have an issue with not being domiciled in Waikanae, and we're spending Waikanae fund. I get the third, but it's words. How's that measurable? So I wouldn't be supporting it this time round. But go to the Paraparumu Community Board, seek the funds, and come back to us, Pats.
Michelle, you want to talk to it?
I won't. Given that we've got evaluation criteria for the funds, if you don't meet the criteria, there is no discretion on that, on the criteria. So I would be abstaining from any vote, and I would support the recommendation that they go and talk to Paraparumu, seek the funds from that ward first, and if they're unsuccessful, then look at other avenues. I think there's plenty of, given that it's across the district, there's plenty of other funds, creative communities and other grants, given that it is covering the whole district, so I'd like them to explore all those opportunities first.
Mark?
I don't think further away.
Okay, we've got
It's been moved 500 and seconded.
yeah, we've got a proposal, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Right.
Yeah, I'll vote for it.
Against? Yourself? And one abstain. So we've got a deadlock.
It doesn't go.
Well, I think I get the casting vote at this stage. And seeing I voted against, I'm going to stay against. So unfortunately, we're not going to approve that, but go to Paraparumu, see what they say. Maybe amend your request and come back, or else talk to Michelle, because she seems to have some...
Can I just add, sorry, Rane?
Yep.
I have spoken with the chair of Paraparumu board, and they are happy to look at the application.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. Now, that's all those done. We shall move to Waka Kotahi. Sorry for that, but thank you for your forbearance. The floor is yours.
Kia ora tātou. I'm Emma Spate, the Director of Regional Relationships for Kotahi, and my colleague Gisela is Regional Manager for Infrastructure Delivery. So I think you will have seen that we have released an update in November So I'm assuming that you've had access to that, because that summarises most of the current state of the project. And I think probably the first point I'd make is we do recognise that this has been a disruptive project and that has had a roll-on impact to people in this community and businesses in this community. Much of that disruption has been from factors that are outside our control in terms of supply chain challenges, and in some respects some of our supply chains are very broken at the moment as a result of COVID and other things. So we've got materials, for example, for bridge struts, for the clip-on, for Waikanae Bridge, separated cycling, that have been held in Australia, and so we're still hoping to get those over here before Christmas, but those supply chains are proving really challenging for us. So there are things like that. We also have significant personnel constraints across New Zealand infrastructure, and those things also flow through and impact on projects like these. And you'll have seen that on other projects in the region, other infrastructure in the region. So that is part of our operating environment, and I think our team has worked hard to keep you updated over the year in terms of what's been happening and where we've had those delays. In terms of where things are at, particularly in Waikanae, we do still have some delays at Elizabeth Street as we await the approvals to operate in the Kiwi Rail corridor, and that is obviously something we're working really hard to resolve, because as soon as we get that resolved we can complete the remaining works there. So the other thing I think that is apparent to everyone tonight is that we're having a pretty bad run winter, and that while weather in our construction environment has specific impacts, and there are certain things that we can't do when it's wet, because we won't get a stable and secure surface or finalised project parameters that are actually going to be resilient for the future. So we do have all those factors, and it is really challenging to operate when we have this combination of factors. However, with the exception of what we call Zone 6 sealing, which is Otahanga area, which will be completed next year, and the clip-on cycle facility across the bridge, all other works will be completed before Christmas, mid-December, but we're working as hard as we can. We're not going to give you an exact date because it is still subject to a couple of things going our way in terms of getting those final decisions and obviously the weather we need. But the team is really confident that they will get that done, and they'll be largely out of here. There'll be some ongoing tidy up works that won't involve significant disruption to vehicle traffic and so on. But apart from that, it will be largely completed, and the works will be able to actually enjoy those footpaths and the changed intersections and so on. Just one other point to Lynn raised the issue of speed limits. We do have currently our interim speed management plan is out for consultation, and that opened on the 14th of November and goes through to the 12th of December. That includes the speed limits for the sections of Old Slate Highway 1, and so once we complete that and those are approved by the Director of Land Transport, we'll be in a position to start implementing those new speed limits as well. So if you've got a view on those, please do make sure that you have your say before the 12th of December. Did you see anything you want to add?
No, the weather has been pretty tough, not just across the refugee model across country and the COVID impacts, supply chain issues. We're really struggling in that industry. We've put out tenders recently, we've been no tenders coming in, so that's our building industry, so we're just not getting people coming in to support the labour force. That's been pretty tough. So yeah, as you can see, we're pretty much on track to finish mid next month, so it's all around bridge and final selling early next year.
Okay, Nigel?
Oh, you want to speak? Yeah, questions. A couple of questions. I hope you know the answer to. You may not. The iconic stone wall that was taken away, but I was told that that was taken away and stored somewhere. Is it? And
Stored
in the quarry.
Come back to you on that one. I saw
I heard it went straight into the tip. I got told.
Yes, it certainly was removed. I think there was a point in time a plan to keep some of it potentially for reuse, but as far as I'm aware, it has all been disposed of. I can check whether or not there was some debate as to whether there would be a small section kept at the depot.
That stone was very expensive.
Yeah.
Leon Keel. That it is.
Leon, yeah.
And I was told before, we were all told, they were retaining that and going to use it in the unit.
Correct. That's
And it went straight into the tip. It was chucked in the tip.
That's unacceptable.
It wasn't even decomposed, it was destroyed.
Yeah.
It wasn't taken to pieces.
So that was removed.
yeah.
Yep, okay, so
that was my first question, and thank you, yes, for the response. But yeah, that was for many people in Waikanae saw that not just as a wall but as a piece of art. So the next question is there used to be a free turn when you're coming into Waikanae, the free turn that went down into Te Moana Road. And so what's happening is you'll probably be aware that now a lot of traffic are using Vahana Motors they're going either around it or in fact in a lot of cases through the forecourt and basically using that as a rat run going down into Te Moana Road and then either carrying on down Te Moana Road or going up Marae Lane. And that is really a significant problem. So but I'm at a loss to understand why that free turn was removed and the community are feeding back that same information. They can't see what the benefits of that are.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
If you'd like, Mr. Chair, I can answer that question for
excuse
you.
me, can we have a bit of quiet please?
So so if you see on that corner now, you'll see there's an extended footpath walkway that takes pedestrians through that, where that area of that left turn was. And there's some planting there. And so the primary driver for that removal was to improve pedestrian safety and provide a crossing point across the top of Te Moana Road and take pedestrian cyclists into Mahara Place and into the Waikanae Town Centre, that's what we would call it, and to link up to obviously the significant work that's been provided with the shared path and the clip-on to the Waikanae River Bridge. So there was also, this might have been 18 months ago, 2 years ago, there was been 2 rounds of consultation and there was further work done on the layout of that, specifically that intersection, also Nio Road. There was another left turn there. So the designs for the improvements there were modified based on feedback from, I think there was a working group with a number of residents within the community that were concerned about the removal of that lane. You'll see there's the free left turn coming up Te Moana Road remains, but really if you actually tried to walk across that intersection as a pedestrian previously, traffic used to fly around that corner. At speed you don't have a lot of visibility there. There's a significant distance without the build-out that's there now for pedestrians to actually manoeuvre across that intersection that was basically unsafe based on the improvements to try and get people safely to the Waikanae River. So that was why that was removed and the work that's there now was put in place. Sorry, if there are issues in terms of Bahama Motors and access through there, then absolutely then, last time I was in there speaking, I hadn't heard that, but if that's an issue then happy to talk to them about whether there's things they can do to slow vehicles down and stop that from happening.
Well, at the moment they've just got a car parked across the forecourt, stop people going into the forecourt. So they're still going around the back, yeah. That's my question, so.
Michelle?
The question about Kiwi Rail. So has the approval actually been received?
Yep, yeah, I think it's been received here, so we are issued there has some data for the local way of put a copy of the data ownership over. We've got our cabinet across the people, so that's been received, so all things going well, the weather going well, we should be close to it.
Can I ask a question? Why wasn't that permit requested?
I'm not sure.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was picked up recently, so it was a designers with questions, the designers missed it because it's not specifically on QL land, it's in the road, but there's some requirement of it that we need to get approval to do it. So it was actually in the roadway, but it was actually, we need to get QL approval, so that's
Have you got any questions, Mike? Tochi?
Yes, thank you for speaking to the revocation works. I mean, clearly the horse is bolted for Waikanae. We're at the other end of the project near completion, and it's good that you've clarified some elements of that to new members. I mean, really the focus is now probably on our friends up north in Otaki, that they get a better experience than Parapram and Waikanae, and maybe the emphasis on the retailers who go to work and that's their livelihood should be a priority. What I find unacceptable, and I'm familiar unfortunately with civil and construction works, is the removal of the wall could have triggered an immediate remediation and completion of that frontage for the retailers and the safe passage for their for the public. It's just been unsightly and unfinished and barricaded for the best part of 7 months, and that really is the single element for me. Not only is it a blight on our town centre, but it's precluded business owners from doing good trade and people getting in there and feeling good about their surroundings. So that's it for me.
I've just got one question. It's probably Sean. What happens behind the curb? Is there remediation coming along behind this?
On the western side, certainly where the pavers were removed, there was asphalt we put in through there and reinstated to the extent that people can get back in and get access to those shops. But longer term, there are plans to look at whether that asphalt, what that looks like, and whether there's ways to extend it further heading north, what the pavement might look like in that space. But obviously conscious of the disruption that's already been experienced by those retailers.
So is the asphalting part of the
No, that'll be
their
done.
job?
That'll be done as part of the council will come in behind that. Whether the reinstatement's done, because at the moment I'm not sure whether the pavers have been removed, whether the asphalt's going down as part of this before Christmas or not, I'll have to check. But that would be the intention. There was some talk about doing some further work on the east, but again, that at the moment is basically on hold until we get through all this current work program.
Okay, so when will you know the before Christmas date? Before Christmas?
No, this is weather dependent. The guy's telling me that they're well on track for mid next month. So all things being equal, we should be fine. Guaranteeing that. So.
Okay.
But we will still keep the community updated and update our website and so on, so that as we do get more certainty, we will let people know. It's like opening Waikanae. We'd love to have a date that we can commit to with people, but right now we've got to hope that we get good weather. But these works aren't as dependent, so there is a fair amount of certainty. We just aren't going to give you a date right now because we're just not quite close enough.
Right, okay, well, thank you very much for coming, and hopefully we don't have to see you again, because it'll all be done. Oh, Sean wants to.
Final word? No. I just, because I have to leave, I just wanted to add, there was the Te Hora residents mentioned the issues around access and speed, but there was also, and speed humps, I think it would be useful if we come back to the board to give you an update on the minor improvement safety work program that council has in place at the moment, and that will give you a good understanding of priorities at the moment and what that program looks like based on the current funding elements that we have, but also talk to the couple that were here about contacting council directly in terms of that specific issue they had in terms of speeding through there and at least then it's on the register in terms of an issue. And even though you might like to do it, you can't just put speed humps in. There are technical issues associated with them, but happy to come back and brief you on the wider program.
Help with that? Okay, that's great, thank you. Item 8.2, Te Horo Beach access. Have we refreshed that? 8.3, Waimano Lagoons estuary access. Tonchi, is that?
No, that can come off.
That can come off. Reports. Appointment of board members to external organisations. Page 29. Yeah. So those two official things are the Waimanu Lagoon and the Farrazin Reserve. Tonchi has been on the Waimanu Lagoon and has indicated to me that he's happy to stay on that.
I'm also happy to put it out there too.
No, he said he's got it in writing. So, do we need we nominate?
You need to move for that, yeah.
And I'll second that. All those in favour? Against? Passed.
Can we just pause for 1 minute? We'll just double check that Katie got. Sorry, it went quite swiftly, so we'll just double check that you've got the movements. Yeah, perfect. All right. Sorry about that. Sometimes it just moves really swiftly.
All right. Farrazin Reserve Focus Group. I was acting as the chairperson of that, and I took Michelle along last time to introduce her to the group. I just wonder whether you want to be the chair. It doesn't. It's hurting council ecologist people and well-meaning members of the community.
I'm happy to take it because they're looking for more volunteers, and I'm really keen. I said through my campaign to get more youth and volunteers.
Yeah, well,
So
that's what I
totally
picked up at our meeting that we had, that you had so many good ideas about getting people to help. So,
I just need a team behind me.
so if you're prepared to be the chair, I would like to nominate you.
Yeah, I'll take you.
It's assuming that you are happy to be the chair. Otherwise, I'll stay on. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Well done. There is a second person that we can appoint to the Farrazin Reserve Focus Group.
This can also be an alternate. It can also be an alternate as well, or a member.
Yeah, so I don't know whether Jocelyn is interested. She was on it previously and she lives right next door. I was going to suggest to her, if she was here, that she might want to be our representative, but I know she's very busy, so we're going to park that until I can talk to her about it.
Yep.
So, is that all right? Did you get that?
Leave that to lie on the table?
I think so.
Yep.
That's the words I wanted to use. Community Board remuneration. I'll vote for that.
In regards to this one,
It's just noting, isn't it?
yeah. So the report's taken as read, but just simply that it's set by the Remuneration Authority, so it is simply for noting.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Just to make things proper, doesn't the gallery have to be dealt with as well, or is that not right?
So I don't.
No, those are ad hoc positions. There's also some other positions that on council committees that we need to deal with as well.
I think technically it would roll over. I spoke to Alison and she said it would roll over unless the board, a formal appointment isn't required, but unless the board wants to put forward a different representative.
Okay, so...
Yeah, I was going to deal with those later because we've got some other things that need to be dealt with too.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, thank you.
but I'm just trying to rush through this. Remuneration, so just do we need to note it? Do we need
So
to
you need a
move?
mover and a seconder just to note the
I'll move it.
recommendation.
I'll second that.
All those in favour? Against? Carried.
So was that Michelle seconding that?
Yeah. Oh,
Michael?
Draft calendar of community board meetings. Now, we had during our campaign, I and other people made not commitments, but indications that we might like to take these on the road, especially to Te Horo, given that they are now in our patch.
You're in our patch, actually.
Oh, sorry, we're now the Te Horo Community Board. So we've got a list of proposed dates, and they're all okay by me, but I wondered whether we want to throw some locations next to them. As well as Te Horo, I thought we should probably try and get down to the beach.
So through you, Mr. Chair, are staff going to support this, Mike? Or
Yes.
we tried this and we want to do this, but it was, it was difficult to get staff to buy into it because they've got to come and set up, and there's different halls and
So it's not the buy-in, we're fully supportive, just there are some administrative and logistics things we have to think through in order to convene a meeting in a place that is not here. So, Fiona, you got some more detail on those?
So essentially in terms of the proposed dates, the dates are proposed. You don't have to make a decision now as to where those meetings are going to be held. So there can be a discussion behind the scenes about that, and come and talk to, or Democracy Services team are aware that there is that desire for that. So we're happy to work in conjunction with you to determine that. We just need to ensure that the venues are accessible, so we need to ensure that there are those requirements. So there is a little bit more. Obviously, we begin to understand how this sets up and things like that. So we just need to make sure that those other venues have the capacity to support that, and partly in terms of the size and all of that. So it's certainly not a no, but it's something that just needs to be worked through. So happy to talk further about when those could happen.
Good. Okay, Mike also baited Mayor Holbrook on in an informal conversation on coming to the 21st century, and maybe we can go live at our meetings. There's remote equipment that could benefit, community boards could benefit from. Mayor Holbrook was not here today, but she thought it was a great idea and up for discussion.
I'll say that back to Democracy Services. We'd have that consistently across all the community boards, I think.
Yeah. City have it, Tony Community Board, I can zoom in, and Eastbourne, and...
Maybe we could be a pilot for KCDC.
Well, it helps the public too, so...
Yeah, just bear in mind we need Wi-Fi in all of our facilities to do that. We don't
It's all part of the package.
Yeah, so again, that is something that is being looked into, but it's not something that we can necessarily make happen immediately due to the venues.
There's no internet at Te Horo yet. I think you get it next year. Yeah.
Well, it's just a roaming modem, roaming.
People's blood sugars are dropping, aren't they? Okay, so...
just a quick question around those dates. Why is there... it's over 2 months,
End of February.
the February to May meeting.
Easter.
Seems like quite a long gap. Is that...
Yeah, there's the Easter break in between there, so it's just extended it out by a further 2 weeks.
It's just that there's only one more meeting between now and May, which is like a really significant gap.
We've got to plan stuff before then too, haven't we?
Yeah.
But we can deal with that. Don't need a formal meeting for that sort of thing. So, has everybody got the dates? Got anything against the dates? No. I just note that I'm not here on the 13th of June, but that doesn't mean we can't keep having a meeting that day because it suits everybody. So the recommendation is that we adopt that schedule. So we're going to move it. I'll second it. All those in favour?
Right.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Applications for funding, we've done. Matters under action. Right at the very back of our list. is the items that have been under action, page 62, I think it is.
Yeah.
But we almost need to jump back to members' business to talk about people on council committees and things. Now, I've gone through the agenda for the full council meeting on Thursday, and within their raft of things, there's a representative with speaking but not voting rights on the Strategy, Operations and Finance Committee. And that was something I did last time. There's also the chair going to the full council without voting rights. There's the Social Sustainability Subcommittee, one representative with voting rights, and the Climate and Environment Subcommittee, one member with voting rights. These committees haven't been formed yet, so we're ahead of the curve. So all we would be doing is saying if these were formed, these would be our nominees. I assume we can do that, but they'd have to be confirmed at the next meeting?
Yeah, because the difficulty you have is that you're talking about a hypothetical situation, so that governance structure is not yet in place. So until it is, you can't really appoint somebody to something that doesn't yet exist. You can certainly discuss it, but you can't make appointments to the...
No, so, okay, but if we made hypothetical appointments, could they,
can pending,
with the leave,
pending that governance structure being confirmed.
Yeah. And if it is confirmed and we haven't confirmed it in our 28th of February meeting, can, at the discretion of the chair, could those people attend any meetings that haven't? Sit at the table, have
probably
talk,
yes.
but not
yes, because
some maybe not vote.
And some will be meeting afterwards. So
yes,
you would need to discuss it with the chair of the committee. But my judgment is that will be entirely acceptable.
Yes.
I just think it's best to get these sorted now. So I'm going to be the council rep. Does anybody want strategy, operations and finance? Obviously you can't.
No, I've been sitting on it already.
So Mike, is that something that really floats your boat? Or Michelle? Do you like social sustainability, climate or environment? Huh?
I'm okay with powers and reserves, thanks.
Don't you?
I think it's better that I pass on this one. I've been a bit expressive over the last few days, in my view. So, as the dragons say, I'm out on that one.
On that one?
Yep.
Any of the other two?
What are the other two?
Social Sustainability Subcommittee. It meets once every 6 weeks and has voting rights.
Look.
Sorry, Tomchi, can I just suggest, like, with it may pay to wait because the remit of those committees is still to be sorted out a bit as well. Like, one of those will involve housing. There's a whole bunch of things which may have a great appeal. You might go, wow, I really want to be involved in that, or it may not. So because we haven't actually sorted out those committees and what they might be dealing with. I mean, there's a loose format there now, but until that's nailed down, it's pretty hard to know what you would be getting into. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Apart from those, the two main committees, the council itself, obviously, and the strategy and policy, or strategy and finance, and they are committees of the whole. So you would expect to be there for those anyway.
Right. Okay. We'll hold off on appointing, and maybe we appoint on the basis of the agenda.
Yeah.
Would that work?
Yeah, I couldn't commit to it time-wise. I just
Yeah.
it would be foolish to. So
So did you say yes to strategy and ops?
No, I think that I'm putting this on hold like this.
Okay.
Is a good suggestion.
Right.
We can put it in a report and bring it to the next meeting.
Do that. Okay. Sorry about that. Tonchi's on Mahara Gallery, wants to stay on Mahara Gallery. I think there's no reason why he shouldn't stay on Mahara Gallery. So that's just a nod of the head because we don't have to resolve.
I mean, I'm completely, you know...
It's effectively finished anyway, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, June next year, there's still a lot of funding debate to take the slack off the council meeting the shortfall, which I can commit to, as well as the construction and the fit out. But then, you know, hand on heart, maybe my time is not, you know, I'm not best suited to it beyond that, in an artistic sense.
You've always been a construction guy.
Yeah.
The other...
And I'm happy for someone to take it over, and maybe in a year's time.
Yeah. Okay.
Happy at the moment.
So that's Mahara. Library is going to be a very important issue for this community board, and I wouldn't like us to be restricted to just one person.
Yeah, two.
I would say at least.
Yeah.
At least two. But I don't even understand the structure that they're running. So, the wry smile from Tonchi.
Well, the structure's a moving target.
Yeah, so
apparently.
I think we'll keep you as our rep on whatever you're on at the moment.
Yep.
But we will push for more open, transparent.
Yep. We should most certainly
and
arm wrestle two individuals.
And frequent information. So,
Mr. Chair, were we going to seek a report, an up-to-date status of the library?
We had a briefing, full council briefing that Waikanae Community Board was invited to at the end of the last triennium, and I would like the Waikanae Community Board to get that again. It doesn't need to be a full briefing, doesn't need to be here, but the opportunity to meet with Alison, and she probably doesn't even need to bring all the extras with her, but just to have a real good sit down and talk so we know what's happening. So
it's a massive priority for the community.
Yeah, I mean, it just I made some comments over the weekend with regarding another project, and you know, the gallery has suffered, and with cost escalations. A lot of that is with professional fees and consultants, not just materials and labour. The library is in its infancy, and already they've mooted that the budgeted 13.8 million might not meet the final outcome. So, it's we need to stay on top of it.
Yeah, so Mike, can you, because it's sort of your area, isn't it? Can you ask Alison for some times, and we can either do it down at the council offices?
Offline?
Offline.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't think we want it online,
No.
because that creates too much formality. But
You want no surprises.
yeah, it's almost like constant information.
And as our community knows, it's 4 years to this month when that door was closed. And
Yeah.
we're all hearing this subject of our library and what's going on, so that would be really prudent.
Yep. So that's some work for you.
Yeah.
We've had the State Highway 1 road naming. Are we going to go there?
Not yet.
No.
It's one for next year.
Let's jump over that one. Maharagat Garrel Trust, Tonchi's on that. Takatai Coastal Adaptation Panel. Now, apparently the chairs of the community boards were supposed to be invited to go to those.
They were invited to them. Only Paraparangi attended any of them. So, with your leave, I will ask the project team to re-invite the chairs. Yep. Now we're in the new training.
Is that CAT?
Crew? No.
Crew?
Yes. No, not crew. It's the anti-crew.
Right.
Anti-crew.
Okay.
This is the panel that's chaired by Jim Polchak.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, coastal adaptation panel.
Yeah. Farrows and Reserve Focus Group, Michelle has been duly anointed, and I'm going to talk to Jocelyn. The Library Working Group, Tonchi's still on it, and we're going to set a offline briefing. The work on the statuses of the reserves, I think, was a big ongoing project for the entire district, wasn't it?
Yeah, happy to leave it on because there was specific interest from Steve actually in the Waimani Lagoon, but actually it's a much bigger issue than that, so I'm happy to leave it on there. We're about to kick that off.
Work plan for Waikanae Park. There was some money in the annual plan for works in Waikanae Park that you're going to find out about?
Yeah, for next year and the year after. So the board asked us to leave that in to make sure we didn't lose sight of that funding. So it is in there, and we've actually already started thinking about that, and we'll be hoping to come to the board very soon to have a discussion with you about that, because the money actually drops in next year.
Yeah, we could come to you before then, if you want. If you don't want to do it in an informal setting.
Right.
I'd rather just keep going. I know how busy it is and the amount of paper that gets generated from formal reports. It's easier to have an offline briefing, as long as it's a no surprises type thing. But keep that work program on. And Waikanae Beach Hall future plans. There's money to upgrade the hall, but we asked for it to be put on hold pending an investigation as to what might be the best thing to do down there.
Yeah, so, and next year we are taking asset management plans to the council to look at all of our beach hall assets with a view to thinking about what the future of those halls is. We have 11, we've got 4 in Waikanae. None of them is a good nick. This is probably the best one actually. But even this one needs a bit of TLC.
Yeah, okay.
So the plan at the moment, my understanding is that all the advice at the moment is for the beach hall is that you would just knock it down, right? So there's a consultant's report that suggested don't spend any money because it would be wasted money and just pull it down. So is there any plan at the moment about, because there's been discussion around an alternate, I think where the men's shed is an area. I don't know if there's been any budget talk about that or where reallocated funds might go. So I know the beach community have been worried about this for like a long, long time. So are we able to get, like, say, for our next community board meeting, just where we're at?
I'm happy to. You're happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's just that I've kind of done it.
Well, you have,
but it's a new board,
Councillor
so
Wilson is not privy to that, and really it should go further up the
through the
food chain, to be honest.
So you'll get it both years.
If we don't sort of settle in this triennium an outcome, perhaps not practically, but at least in principle, what that's going to look like down at the beach, and spend a bit of money on keeping these fit for purpose, well then we haven't done our jobs in 3 years.
Can I just be clear on the beach hall? Whilst yes, we have a report that paints a pretty poor picture of itself, you've probably seen it.
Yeah.
There is no decision yet been taken to bowl it or do anything like that.
No.
Even though that is, honestly, that is probably all it's worth. But in the meantime, we have given it liquor paint. We came to the board last year with some money that we spent on keeping it going, but it's on life support.
Yeah. That's why I'm quite keen to progress it to a point where we've got a plan for what we're going to do and some timelines and get money into annual plans, long-term plans, whatever plans are required. Just start making it happen because that community's been waiting for quite a long time.
Now, to this list, we need to add several Te Horo things. So Mike, would you
right, well, a couple from the floor today. The paper that's been put forward and email around about the speed humps that can at least go into matters on action. It will need some work.
Yeah, I think Sean's going to come back to us on something.
This one about vehicular access on the north end in Mangoni Lagoon needs to be added as a matter of action. The third one I've got here, I don't know how we deal with that. It was raised, and you mentioned as well about this missing $82,000 funding for Te Horo, which was, it went back into the Consolidated Fund quite some time ago. So I don't know if it's something we can investigate and see if it's a lost cause to get something back, or we may have to start entirely on a new project by the community to find some funding. But it was on the paper in Otaki's community board for quite some time. I don't know if it's still under their matters under action. It probably is actually, but we may need to look at their board.
It was 82,000 to do tennis courts or something, wasn't
well, yes, that's right. See, so what happened? The community board and the residents group down in Te Horo Beach and the other one, they never came to a resolution, so it ended up being thrown around ironically like a tennis ball, and nothing was resolved. So it went back, and as James Kurtzwood, former councillor, will tell you, it went back into the Consolidated Fund, I believe. So.
And it might be that it's gone and
may well
we'd have to start a new process.
But I suspect it's still under Otaki's board's matters, possibly.
Well, so this is council funding?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it should be easy to track down.
Yeah, absolutely. There will be an audit trail.
Right.
It would be fine. Yeah.
And was there one other thing you had?
That's
No.
no. Oh, there was the community garden that's been proposed. I don't know if it needs any, but it'd be good to track it and put it on our action matters under action. A community garden that's going to go under the Gawler Street Reserve, which has been not used for ever. But there's a local community person who wants to move that forward, so it's worthy of putting that on our list of.
Well, Andy's aware of it.
Yeah,
is it?
Yeah.
Doesn't get lost then. So.
Which reserve's on?
On Gawler Street. There's a reserve up there.
So what about the sewer, Mr Chair, at Waikanae? We should probably put that on the and ask for a report from Sean Mellon to get an understanding of what's going on there.
Yeah. And
plan change too. It would be nice if the board could have an update from the RMA department within council on where that's at.
It's open for further submissions.
Right.
And I think they're hearing it in March.
Right.
But yeah.
Further submission.
It's a bizarre thing because it's imposed upon us.
Yes, and there's applications in there at the moment which are taking advantage of the proposal. They have that right by. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we need to, there's members of the public community who aren't aware, need information, and if we could do something through seeking that information and then distributing that through the council website and community board, social media or whatever, that'd be good.
I think that's all our formal business.
Just a couple of things. Is the target date for the Waikanae Town Centre project, is that a typo? The 2033 target date?
They're going to beat that target.
I would hope so. Yeah, and the other one too is, given the discussion that we had with Whakakarotahi, in terms of our main road, it strikes me that that's very much a matter under action. So that as it was here, it was just a verbal update. I presume that, are we going to get another verbal update from them, or so what's the progress as matters under action for that?
I think it wasn't previously. So wasn't these guys, but Jacob and Dan, the actual project managers, had come to at least the last two meetings and actually briefed us. And actually, they were more granular than those guys were. We can keep it in. And there's a standing invitation to them. In fact, there's a standing commitment for them to come back and keep us informed.
Well, it's a pretty big deal for the people of Waikanae and the businesses in Waikanae and traffic safety, and as it's progressing, and given that the next meeting isn't for a couple of months, one would hope that there's, it's right through Christmas, New Year, we'd hope that there's a pretty significant changes.
The believe they agreed to come back every 2 weeks with an update.
Yeah.
So they should provide us with a 2-weekly update, which we can then share through our channels.
We received one just the other day, didn't we?
I believe we did.
Maybe they could find the wall.
The Great Wall of
So,
Oh, I just want to, sorry, I'm not sure. Do we need to talk, who's going to attend the WCB, or are we going to send the road safety group? Do we need to discuss that at all?
CWB.
Yeah, CWB. Walking cycling. Yeah, whichever one. As long as we keep them all there.
Cycle walkway probably.
is that something we're invited to?
Yes.
It's an advisory group.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a mechanism for us to get our local issues on the table, which can then go through to the council and get onto those lists that Sean's talking about.
Do you want to go on that?
I think as long as we send a representative each time, that's the important thing. We haven't been sending a representative. I'm happy to go, but we need to make.
Okay.
Great.
You're on there, Lawrence?
No.
Does anybody know when the next one is?
So we just had one just before I came down today.
I was thinking there was one this afternoon.
I'm the officer who sits on it. So, and actually, to be fair, Jocelyn's been at the last several, but no, I don't think she's coming from any more. There's Shelley.
Shelley's chairman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shelley.
It was actually chaired by a guy from by Bruce Henderson.
Oh right.
Can you get Michelle on the invite list?
It is always also included in the elected members bulletin and the meeting schedule as well.
Okay.
And we read that every week.
Great. You can see how much luck I have with this.
It needs to be on that. It's not.
Anything else?
Done.
Mr. Webber.
When you finish, we'll do a cut of tea for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, sort of. Yes.
And the media would really like to get a photo of you.
Would they?
Ian's over there.
What?
Can't pass this off the chair there.
Just that we were asked about communications, and our Facebook presence has improved dramatically, but other communications, we talked during the election about something in the library window.
Yeah, and talking with some of the other elected members, they suggested that we actually. I was thinking, I'm just a simple girl. Piece of paper, pictures, with a list of meeting dates, but then somebody said no, it needs to be digital. But I think it's important we have our images with the contact details and the meeting dates so people can see us. And if we have regular places that we're going to be, that they know where they are. Because as we've heard tonight, not everyone's on social media.
No,
Yep. Okay, well,
It actually threw
And
out.
maybe it could be in the local paper as well.
should we
need to just talk
think
to
about that
that.
and maybe talk to the library people about getting in the window?
And also, Waikanae, throughout Waikanae, we have a lot of community notice boards in a whole variety of places. So some appropriate poster that goes into the community notice board, it's what they're for, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
Boom, Michelle could design it, print it, write it.
Right. What
Sorry,
else haven't I done?
We just get a mover and
get a
second
photo.
for Madam
You can
Sandra,
get a photo.
that the board note.
I'll move it. Michael seconded it.
What did I
It's
just think?
noting the matters under action.
We've just noted.
Chocolate? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried.
Would you like me to close the meeting?
Yes, I think we can close the meeting now.
Kia tau tō rangimahi hei, ki runga I ngā iwi o te ao. Let your peace reign on all the people of the earth. Kia ora, everybody.
Kia ora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right. Now, Ian wants to get a photo.
All right, well, you better organise it.